This is Voice of the Bus, Mark Johnson, and you're listening to the Folsom Frenzy Podcast.
All right, guys, welcome to the Folsom Frenzy Podcast today. I'm here with Topher and Chase, and we have a very, very special guest today. We got Dukes the Scoop, former On3 analyst, and now kind of a free agent, but kind of working with Well-Off Media, so very well connected with the program, and we're very, very excited to have him on and pick his brain a little bit. Want to introduce yourself real quick?
Philip Dukes, out of College Park, Georgia. I guess you could call myself somewhat of a free agent. Right now, just kind of been taken in by the Colorado fan base immediately as I kind of work through what I want to do next. And yeah, man, just excited to be here, man. Shout out to Well-Off Media and shout out to the Pregame Network.
Absolutely. No, we're excited to have you on. We're excited to have the entire Well-Off family involved with CU. And, quick background for us. So Topher, Chase, and I actually were all legacy. Topher didn't go to CU, but Chase and I met at CU running the student section. Topher also used to come down from Greeley to the games with us. We all went to the same high school at a little bit different times, but we've always been CU fans pretty much our whole lives. And so we've been really, really excited the last couple of years to see some of the changes and the positive impact that Coach Prime and the whole team has made to our program. So that's kind of a little bit about us. But, diving in a little bit deeper, we would love to hear your backstory and how you got into football, how you got into being an analyst, that type of stuff.
Man, so I guess I grew up playing ball. I quit playing early. I think I started getting into a little bit of trouble in high school. But then I kind of turned things around like my 11th grade year and made some really good grades. I've always been like sort of like a smart guy, kind of nerdy to be honest. And now like when I just figured out that I wasn't as tough as I thought I was, I just decided to go to school. Made some really good grades, like my 11th, 12th grade year, kind of salvaged my first 2 years. Ended up going to Auburn University academic. Went to Auburn through a lot of parties. Basically, that's how I kind of got with a lot of the ball players and just anybody. It's not like a whole lot of black people in Auburn anyway. So like, just like to be like, just to be honest, like the number when I was there, I think it was like I may have been 1% of black male non-athletes at Auburn. So I hooked up with some guys who had a local club. I started throwing parties at the local club. Everybody used to come, and that's kind of just how I built the reputation. Fast forward 20 years later, so all of those guys from the 2004 team used to all frequent my parties. Cadillac Williams, Jason Campbell, Carlos Dansby was there the year before that. And but one in particular was Travis Williams, who's now the defensive coordinator at Arkansas. One of my best friends today. At the time in 2020, he was a linebacker coach at Auburn. Cadillac was the running backs coach. I had a couple of buddies, Kendall Simmons, who's now at Middle Tennessee State, played a long time for the Steelers. And we used to just have conversations just about Auburn football. And then one day I was just like, bro, I'm talking to all these guys, like, and I'm reading the message boards, and I had somebody come tell me, like, bro, you should try to do that. So it's COVID. I went tripping too hard. So I said, all right, cool. So I hit the message board up. This is 24/7. I hit the board up like, look, I know all these people. I got the scoop. Give me a job. And they're like, Dukes, that is not how that goes. And I don't know. Shit, I work well. And so I took it personal. I was like, all right. So I'm just go to the message board anyway. So I go to the message board and I say, expect 3 booms this afternoon, because I knew the guys who were going to commit. And everybody just starts clowning me. Who's this guy? Who's this secret? And yeah, right. You know how that go. And so then it happened. Then a week later, I expect this guy to be on campus, such. It's not be on campus, but expect this guy to start, because that was during COVID. Nobody coming on campus. But as far as expect this guy to pick up his interest in Auburn, that you'll probably see something coming out this weekend. And it happened again. So then the people from 24, the people at that site hit me and were like, all right, we'll give you a free subscription. I was like, what? All right. So I made a Twitter, and I just started unloading information. Like, so the same Twitter that I have now, I just started in 2020 with 0 followers. I think I'm up to like 16,000 now, which ain't a huge amount. But in my first 3 months, I got like 6,000 followers. And all I did every weekend was say, I made one tweet and say, if I get 200 retweets, I'll unlock my page and I'll tell you everything I know. And I did that for like months and months and months. And then I got a call from 24/7 saying, look, bro, like, I guess I kind of disrupted the industry in that pocket because it's like he's giving out free stuff and he's beating us on some of this stuff. So, and then by the time people started to realize it, they was like, oh, damn, Duke's really got the scoop. And that's how I got my first job with part-time gig. I had a 2-year deal with 24/7 as a scoop guy, where basically all I had to do was write an article or 2 articles every week, but they had to be loaded with recruiting information. And I did that well, parlayed that into a contract with On3. KJ Bolden was the hot prospect last year, I believe. Stuff goes so fast. I got his only interview. I knew his parents from back in the day. I was like, look, bro, he was the number 5-star safety. I need that interview. They was like, what do you like? What you mean an interview? I like, all he gotta do is FaceTime. He's like, I'm fine. And he did it. And shoot, nobody in the industry could get it. So my man On3 hit me like, we need that. And that's how I got to On3. And then On3 didn't end like how I saw it ending, but it didn't end bad. So I think just the Colorado fans are so protective of people who they love, man. And I think it's just like, bro, like now Duke saying, shoot, Coach Prime was like, before you sign anything, because I know they coming, I want you and Bucky to take a shot at it. And that's how I got involved with Well Off Media.
That's awesome. And we'll kind of cover all of it, but I am curious. So once you became official, did you find that, sometimes players are looking to get, smoke going in certain ways and stuff like that? How do you kind of, when you're hearing all these rumors and getting an idea of what might be happening, how do you kind of tell the fact versus the fiction? And when do you feel confident enough to finally lock it in and say, like, I think this is happening?
I usually it's always difficult, right? Because you're dealing with 17 to 18-year-olds, right? Like, just remember when you were 17 to 18, if you had everybody wanting to know where you were going to school, and you had all of these people offering you all these crazy things. So things change frequently. I think the best thing that I do is I usually talk to if I can get it from somebody on the staff and somebody close to the player or the player themselves, then I usually believe it. The player himself tells me, a lot of time that happens, but I'll know something and the player's like, I want to announce it this date. And so I'll risk being late on something just to protect the relationship with the player, because if you blow it, like, there's no guarantee that he won't flip again. So if he won't decommit and go somewhere else, but you'll be first on that one, because I can say, all right, look, bro, last time, I held it. Can I be first this time? And you just build relationships. But having that trust factor, I mean, you guys, if you follow me On3, you will see how many kids that I was talking to on a consistent basis. It's kind of like, though, I built relationships, and I also wanted to make sure that kids, we just didn't talk about where you were going to school. I just didn't want to juice the recruitment for that. I wanted to make sure that people got to see who they were, show some of their personality, especially in the NIL era. So, yeah, I think as far as drawing between fact and fiction, it's all relationship building, and then it's basically just gauging the situation to know what can you say without blowing it for the kid.
Yeah, it makes sense. So I do recall before the season, we had that kind of semi-fake controversy type of thing happening with CBS and Prime. And I remember that was how I was introduced to your work, because it kind of came out that we don't have to go into the details of what happened behind the scenes, but I do recall that you had kind of like the inside scoop on maybe a project that fell through behind the scenes. How did you become so close with Coach Prime? How did you develop that relationship? Obviously, you're big about relationships.
Man, that's it. Just building relationships and being genuine. I think the first time I talked to Coach Prime, he was checking my workout, and he was just like, bro, he had somebody reach out to me, and then he reached out to me, and then not even knowing that outside of that, I was already a fan of his. But when you're working in a national media type deal, you can't not let your fandom take over, right? So we had a private conversation, which he gave me a lot of gems as far as how to handle myself. And shoot, man, we just continued to like, and it started coming out that we had mutual friends, where it's like guys that I know and guys that he's mentored in the past, that he's like, oh yeah, I know him, and I know him. And then by the time he did Coach Prime, he usually, like, when he gives somebody access, he's gonna vet them out. And the background checks he did on me checked out, like, oh, this dude's solid. So we just built from there. And shoot, man, Coach Prime is just one of those guys who, when he believes in something, he believes. And I think that he gave me the opportunity that he did just because he believed.
That's awesome. coming from Auburn, SEC school, and coming to Colorado, people were really surprised when Coach Prime decided to take the Colorado job and take a job that was, frankly, I mean, we're all Colorado fans. We're really glad he's here. But Colorado at the time was probably the worst job at least in Power 5 college football at the time, maybe in college football at all, as far as like huge uphill battle. Coming from Auburn where, you had all those connections there and you're coming to Colorado looking to establish those. You talked about how important those relationships are, but what's been kind of the biggest difference you would say, either culturally or just like expectation wise between, when you were focusing on an SEC school versus, kind of what you've experienced since you started covering Colorado?
I'd just say the fan base, man. I think the fan base, I've never seen the fan base like this. And I think it's half Colorado and half Coach Prime. I think it's the perfect mixture of a star fan base being fed. And I can't put it any better. And I haven't seen, that type of synergy with any other fan base. And I've covered Auburn, I've covered Georgia, I've covered Tennessee, I've covered a lot of teams, but Colorado has something special. And I think that the way that Colorado blends to, I wouldn't say even blend, they kind of galvanize each other, right? The fans is like a big melting pot of different cultures. Everybody's on the same page when it comes down to Colorado football. It's not sectioned off, that nobody operates in silos, everybody works together. And I think that's the biggest thing is that, and there's so much politics that goes along with SEC football, and this is the first family of this school, and this guy's the booster that pays for that. And and I know that's happening everywhere. But it's not as prominent in Colorado. Like in Colorado, it's just like, hey, we're all one big family marching to the same tune, and there is no hierarchy. A fan is a fan. If you love the Buffs, if it's Go Buffs, then it's Go Buffs, no matter who you are. So I think that's probably been the biggest difference from coming from SEC country to going out to Colorado, is how welcoming everybody is. And I can say I got a pretty good look at the program, even though I'm new to it. This is probably the most access I've ever had to a program this fast, and I'd have to say, man, it's almost hard to put into words like how Colorado is really just a welcoming and very open community when it comes to accepting the fanhood or the fandom that goes along with Buffalo football. It's incredible.
We love to hear that from a fan perspective, right? Like from the outside, we always say that our program is better than your program, even though we didn't have any ground to stand on. Being that you are so involved with high school recruiting and you've kind of come on in the time of NIL, what do you feel like has been like the biggest factor in swaying these recruits, right? Like you talk to a bunch of different recruits. Do they tell you like, I like this school because of X, and it's very commonly the same thing over and over again?
Yeah, relationships. Because when you recruit a certain type of guys, the money is the money. Like, you're not going to go after a Julian Lewis if you don't have the money. You're not going to go after a Naeem Alford if you don't have the money. Like, there may be one outlier, but nobody has the type of money where they can afford to just fork over $4 million extra than the next guy is willing to offer. So when it comes down to money, it comes down to relationships more than anything. When I think with players these days, is because where is somebody going to feel comfortable if all of the money is the same? Now, if you got a 3-star guy that one school may be higher on than the other, and it's $150,000 difference, then of course that's a huge difference. But when it comes down to these 4- and 5-star prospects, everybody is about on the same page or the same wavelength as far as based on position, based on need, and basically those are the two things. What position is it, and how bad do you need that position? It sets the market as far as NIL goes. So I think relationships still reign supreme. Who do you feel comfortable around? Who are you going to tell what the other school is going to do for you, so you can say, can you match this? Because I'd rather get this amount of money to come play for you because I like you better than that coach. So I think relationships are always going to reign supreme when it comes to recruiting.
Awesome. And you mentioned that, you've spent a lot of time getting to know the program. You've been in it. Colorado's been very successful. There's no question that there's going to be a lot of suitors for Coach Prime in the offseason as far as different jobs and opportunities for him. Have you kind of gotten the sense, he's been saying, look, I'm comfortable. This is where, I want to build something. I've got a good thing going for me. Or, if you had to take a stand and just guess, what's the offseason going to look like? What's kind of your opinion on that?
I don't see him going nowhere. Like, why would you? Like, it's set up out there, man. He got everything you need. You got the resources. You got a crazy fan base. You got a great recruiting class. You got facilities. I mean, what? And it's peaceful. He can get home when he needs to. Like, he basically has autonomy to run the program how he wants to. There's no big time booster trying to breathe down his back and tell him, hey, if you don't do it my way, it ain't. He doesn't have to deal with any of that. And he's built it. It's something that he's built. This is the house, like, just like they used to call the Georgia Dome the house that Prime built. And this is kind of like the house, like Folsom is kind of like the house that Prime built part 2. This is his summer house or his fall house, you know. Like when you think about what me thinking about this. Where so let's say Florida State would have come open, and maybe it won't, or Florida. 2 schools in Florida that will be able to pitch Deion and say, you can come home to your home state, better weather, ACC or SEC. All right, all of those schools, or let's say at least half of those schools in that conference can recruit with a national imprint. And I'll say top maybe 4 schools in the ACC, and I'd say at least 8, maybe 6 in the SEC. 0 in the Big 12. He has a chance to become nobody else can recruit with Colorado in the Big 12. Not one school can go from Washington State to Miami, Florida, and have success with 4 stars and 5 stars or 3 stars or whoever you want in both places. He he's the only person that can do that in this conference, and I think that so basically he could set it up in a way that, and I said this on somebody else's show, like Dabo Swinney had in the Clemson a couple of years ago when Clemson was recruiting at this level and nobody else in the ACC was even getting close. He was getting the quarterbacks, he was getting the linemen on offense and defense, and you couldn't really stop Clemson for a period of time. And I think that's what Deion can build up there. And I think just even with me, like I always just look at his spirituality. And it's something about being in those mountains, like even when you go back and you look in the Bible, it's like Jesus when he went to I mean, I'm not trying to say the man is Jesus. I'm just saying, like he's a follower for sure, follower of Jesus. So yeah, for sure. Like I just think like there's a level. Anytime somebody commands such a presence, there is a level of peace that guy wants. I don't care who it is, and his level of peace. He doesn't drink. He doesn't smoke. His vice is peace. That's what he likes to go get when he can't get anything else. And I think, man, I've never seen a more peaceful place than Colorado. Good gracious, man. When I went to so I was staying in I think Broomfield, maybe. Am I saying that right? Broomfield?
Yep.
Man,
yeah,
and you just look out the window, you got the mountain and the sunrise. I think I saw a bird go by. And I'm like, man, like, bro, like this thing is, hey, man, like, I'm going back to sleep, man. I feel good. Like, you know what I mean? Like, just feel comfortable, man. And so it's a vibe out there, bro. And I think I don't see him leaving because I think, why would you? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, what else does Deion Sanders need? You got coaches that need validation. What validation does he need? He just took a one-win team to a potential playoff team this late in the season. And he ain't been there for 2 years. Ain't not even 2 years yet, bro. Like, what validation do you need? This is Deion Sanders. Bro, look, I didn't buy this shoe because I met him. I had this shoe since 2010. Bro, you feel me? Like, I got one more wear on them. That's why they up there. I want to wear them so bad. Like, nobody, like, there's no, like, he doesn't need validation when you watch everybody in the stadium with your shoe on. He's been on TV all day today. Like all day. I'm seeing this Tubi show. Like it's low key crazy that he's cool as he is. I'm like, bro, that's Deion Sanders. But like, yeah. So I don't think he doesn't need the validation of saying, "Oh, can I go prove? Can I do it?" I think he's gonna get his shot to play an SEC team or prove himself in the playoffs.
Absolutely.
I'm so glad to hear that. I think we're all just so happy to hear this because I think all of us kind of had this feeling too. But it's amazing hearing this from someone that really knows the man and is really connected with him. And I'll tell you this much. It's also very validating. It's also very validating to hear your comments about Colorado because I've had a lot of different opportunities to leave. I grew up here. I spent almost my whole life here. But I've had a lot of different opportunities to leave, and I just can't do it. I just keep finding some reason to stay, and I absolutely love it here. It's a great vibe. And I'm glad I get to keep my season tickets too, and still go to Folsom.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I'm from Atlanta, man. So like, it's a lot of hustle and bustle from the South. Even being in the South, Atlanta is a very metropolitan area, so Atlanta don't sleep. Like, it's always something to do. Like, if I wanted to go out, wake up in the morning, I want to go party at noon on a Tuesday, I can go do it. And I can go to a popping party at noon on the Tuesday. I can find it. Colorado, you can't do it, and that's a good thing. You know what I mean? It's like while you out there, it's like bro, like you can really focus on yourself, focus on what you want to do if that's what you're looking for. Now, I'm pretty sure if you want to go get in some trouble, you can. But I think but I think when you look at the landscape and when you look at how the people treat you, man, it's just somewhere where I think that I've talked to plenty of people that said they would love to make their homes in that area. So yeah, for sure, I think it's a special place.
I also live in the Atlanta area. As I say, I also live in Atlanta. I didn't mention this before we started recording, but
what part
I would say I'm on North Druid Hills, up by the new Choa building.
Yeah,
but,
you're not far from the Claremont Lounge.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
But as far get away from getting away from the Atlanta traffic alone.
Hold on, Chase. How'd you know about the Claremont Lounge? Hold on, sir.
All right, we're gonna have
to. We got to start it over again. We got to start it over again.
Yeah, we're gonna have to restart from the top. All right. Well, with those accusations standing, we'll move on to the game very quickly while Sreyas gets himself together. Huge win for the Buffs, 7-2, 5-1 in conference, but most importantly, Colorado now controls its own destiny after a huge loss by Iowa State. BYU looks very beatable. All of a sudden, the path is looking very open and very clear for the Buffs towards the potential Big 12 championship, and then from there, the college football playoff. Let's talk, briefly about the game. I know you don't have a ton of time, but I thought that was a statement win for the Buffs, 41-27. The Buffs did not start hot. People, I think this is probably how you could tell on Twitter whether they're an old CU fan or a new CU fan, but old CU fans were ready to give up after we were down 13-0 in the first quarter. The sky was falling. Nothing was going right. But I think, people who have watched this team all season knew this team was going to wake up and get there. And boy, did they. 31 points in the second half compared to 14 for Texas Tech. Pitched a shutout in the second quarter. This team, I don't know. I thought it was a great win. I'm sure, a lot of people that are listening to this have obviously heard your entire breakdown. But, in just a couple words, initial thought. I mean, this was an important win for the Buffs, and this was not a give me win by any means, right? Texas Tech is not a bad team this year.
No, they're not, and I think that's one of those gritty wins that you want to see. Like when you have everybody. So for anybody that follows boxing, every time you get a prospect, you want to see what happens when they get punched in the mouth. Like everybody is so pretty while you beat somebody else up, but when you get punched in the mouth, the way you respond is who you are and what kind of champion you can be. And I think getting punched in the mouth the way that they did, 13 points, right? I mean, and they could have got ugly fast, but it didn't. And what they did was they said, all right, they took the punch, licked the wound a little bit and said, all right, y'all ready? Okay. And they got themselves together. And then the leaders, and I talked about this, the leaders and the dogs took over. And I think it had a lot to do with the game plan, but I think it had even more to do with guys self-correcting each other and saying, all right, you pick me up and I'll pick you up. And those are signs of a championship team. When you can go down and you see guys bicker without fighting. And it's not even bickering. Where guys let me say that over. We can see guys hold each other accountable without bickering. That's the sign of a championship team. My favorite thing this whole time when I think it was DJ McKinney, when he breaks the ball up in the end zone and he's pointing at the guy, and then Travis Hunter comes and puts his hand down like the Michael Jackson meme. But I'm looking at it, I'm like, bro, that's a championship team. The last time I saw something like that, and I'm not even talking about how Shedeur and Travis they're like brothers, but that moment it reminded me of a couple of years ago in the national championship game when Georgia was in the national championship game. Nakobe Dean and Channing Tindall were in the game. Channing Tindall does something wrong. Nakobe Dean grabs him, puts him in a place when he makes a mistake, and tells him, "Hey, bro, you can't do that again." The very next play, Channing Tindall goes and sacks the quarterback. Those are championship plays, and they don't come from the sideline. They come from the field. And I think that's what I saw more so than anything in that game yesterday was those guys being able to self-correct each other and course correct internally without having to go to the coaching staff. And I think that was my major takeaway was like, hey, these guys really are brotherhood and they believe that they can do this.
Especially on the defense, right, Dukes? Especially on the defense. That's what, as CU fans, we've only seen one defense this good in the last 25 years, really, at least in the last 20 years. What do you think about how good of a job, first of all, how great of a hire Robert Livingston was and how good of a job he's done, but then also basically the guys that they brought in, like Mekhi Hill-Green from Charlotte. And then Levante was obviously with the program last season too, but watching him take a step up, all those edge guys, all those D linemen, BJ Green, Arden Walker, who came in last season. What do you, Amari McNeil? I can't forget but to mention him. What do you think about all of that?
Yeah, I just think when you bring people in who are of the same ilk and are on one accord, and they all want to work hard, I think it's hard to beat talented guys who work as hard as if they're not. It's hard to beat 6 guys who can rush the passer. See, you may have one game record. Okay, that's fine. But let's say everybody else isn't on the same page or isn't on the same level. He could tire. You can't tire out 6, 7, 8 defensive linemen, and that's what they send them at you. They send you talented guys in waves against that same 5 on the offensive line. That's 8 versus 5. So that even though it's not 8 versus 5 in the game, when you go 8 deep on the offensive line, 8 deep on the defensive line against a 5-man front, bro, eventually they're going to crack. And what you saw in that game yesterday was like, bro, this dude whooping me. Oh, well, here go another one with fresher legs. He's whooping me too. Well, damn, this guy's pretty good too. And then when you send guys at waves, and that goes back to the depth of how Colorado's roster is built for November and December, because you've got guys, you're able to withstand injuries, which depth is so important because not one guy can take down the program at this time. Shedeur is probably the only irreplaceable guy. He's probably the most irreplaceable guy in the country. Like, there isn't, but every guy, every quarterback is kind of like that. But outside of that, last year you saw when the offensive lineman got hurt, man, it was like a turnstile. When you saw a defensive lineman get hurt, you couldn't get any pass rush. Like, now you got guys you can sit down in waves. You got injuries in the receiver room. Now you so deep at receiver, bro. Man, who's next? All right, cool. Come on. Cash Cleveland, right? Now you can mix and match. Like, so I think, and I hate that, and not to get away from the defensive side, but the total depth of the roster is what impresses me the most. But defensively, when you can go 5, 6 deep at linebacker, guys who have playing experience this year, meaningful playing experience. We're not talking about garbage time. When you got 8, 9 guys who have meaningful playing experience on the defensive line, and you probably may have the best cornerback group in the country, top to bottom. I don't think you can go find 4 guys better than that cornerback group, bro. That says a lot. And you still got a guy like R.J. Johnson, who I know Arkansas didn't want to lose. For sure they didn't, because R.J. he's one of those. He's a size speed guy, and that's something that you can't teach. Then you got and he's running down on kickoff, knocking folks' heads off. Like, and if he had to play in a pinch, he could. Colton Hood starts. Colton Hood is the 4 corner here. He's the number 2 corner at Auburn, and he's the number 1 corner at a lot of schools in the country. So being able to go that deep and having that type of talent level that where you can say, hey, I don't know if you guys saw it, but I saw Colton Hood playing against what's the guy who came from Kelly? He played Josh Kelly one-on-one, did a good job. And he also played Aiken, who's a bigger receiver, 6'2", 210, also did a great job on him. So when you talk about a guy who's your 4th corner that can go up and do a great job on a 1 guy, that just talks about the depth of the roster and the depth of the defense, to your point. And I think that's what makes teams good in November and December is how deep can you go?
Absolutely. And on the other side, right, Travis, I just want to give him a shout out because this was a huge week for his Heisman hopes. Cam Ward taking a loss, although he looked spectacular, but 9 receptions, 99 yards, and a touchdown, and what should have been an interception that was, obviously taken off the board. I saw a statistic today that apparently that was the only time they threw in his direction whatsoever, and it was completely taken away. Seems like Texas Tech might have picked up on the idea that maybe you shouldn't be throwing the ball at Travis Hunter, which is something that Colorado State definitely would have benefited from if they'd figured that one out. But, such a special player. And like you said, I mean, the secondary, there's really no good place to go, right, when you're trying to throw the ball against Colorado. But, I mean, Travis is one of one. Big week in our opinion, or at least in my opinion. I'm curious what your thoughts are for his Heisman hopes. But, I mean, he continues. This felt like, in my opinion, like maybe one of Travis's more quiet games until you look at the statistics and see he still had 99 yards and a touchdown and almost had that catch in the end zone towards the end of the game that, he didn't end up getting a hold of, but would have been an insane catch anyway.
Yeah, I mean, my favorite play from Travis is when he cleared out 2 cornerbacks so Western could score. Like, that's a Heisman play to me, right? And that's one of those plays that don't show up in the show up in the stat sheet, that people that vote are saying if they're really watching the game, and that's where you hope that you got that the voters really love ball, right? Because if you look at that play where a guy who needs stats in order to get the guys or people or to get the national media around, all they want to do is put up an Instagram post. That won't show up on anybody's post this week, and that may have been his most impressive play this week. The fact that he was able to clear 2 to get 1 to score, and I think that's so important for me as him as a player, that he was willing to say, and he didn't complain, he didn't be in moan. He said, "Bro, I had to make a play. That play, and the next time it'll go to me." But he takes every snap so seriously. I mean, think about this. He's already playing all snaps on defense, taking away a lot of times the number 1 receiver. You go on offense, the play's not coming to you, and you're still giving 2,000% effort. That's when we talk about the most valuable player in college football. That's what it means to me. The guy who's willing to say, I'm going to do it even when I'm not getting the ball, at a position where they feel like the majority of the players have a reputation for being divas, or I'm not getting my way, I'm a pout. Well, look, the man went out there and blocked like a damn offensive guard on the perimeter. Like, I mean, at the end of the day, so man, I think that was his most impressive play. And I think for anybody who wants to vote on the Heisman, if you saw that game, that play had to stick out to you. Not even thinking about the athleticism that went along with that interception. I think probably only 1% of the players in college football could have made.
Yeah, on one top of playing, things, 100 plus plays.
Yeah.
Yeah, come on,
one quick point too. Yeah, one quick point to add on to this too. Y'all remember that chase down tackle he had in the CSU game where he ran the entire length of the field just to tackle CSU's running back, who, frankly, if he scored the touchdown, we're still going to win. But he still chased him down completely end to end. That one, that's definitely one that's not going to show up in the stat book, but it sticks in my head. It shows you how much commitment he has and how much passion he has for the game, right? I love that. And clearly Coach Prime recruits those types of players, right? What are his big philosophies, right? Smart, fast, tough, disciplined with character. Travis Hunter is him, right? That is exactly who he is.
Absolutely, man. I couldn't agree more.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're going to do our Q Wealth Management Player of the Game. We have a fancy ticker up now for our viewers watching on YouTube. But, I feel a little bit bad, and I'm curious what your thoughts are on our picks for this game. After not giving it to Travis, we've given Travis our offensive player of the game probably 500 times, offensive or defensive, right? It can go either way. But in this game, one of the players that CU fans are very aware of, but maybe not, national media would recognize. We went with Cash Cleveland on the offense, coming in, didn't start the game. Things were not going well. He came in and was a stud. He's super easy to like. I don't know how you could not like him, especially for those folks who saw the YouTube video. I think it was a couple games ago when his family saw him getting the start, and it seems like he's just a really good dude. I'm curious what your thoughts are on that pick. And then on the defensive side, we had to give it with Arden Walker, but honestly, I mean, so many guys were playing like crazy on defense that, we thought about going a couple different ways. Special teams. I'll just make the comment very quickly. We get a lot of hate for this on our YouTube comments. Mark Vassett, yet again, not a great game from the punter position. He had a couple good punts, but he kind of struggled. We gave it to Mata. But curious what your thoughts are on those picks specifically for this Texas Tech game. Who did you think were the standouts on each side?
I thought Cleveland had a great game. I really enjoyed what Will Shepherd did, a real workmanlike performance, spectacular one-handed catch as he was being pass interfered with. But I love Cleveland's demeanor, man. I love Cash's demeanor. I just think he's just a guy who feels like he's playing with house money, even being on the team. And the fact that he's getting the stars, like, they called I saw where they called a penalty on him, and it zoomed in on him. He still got this look on his face, like, man, what? All right, no, we good. All right, I'll get him next time. It's like the fire in his eyes is something that you can't replicate. I think defensively, I went Amari McNeil, man, 9 tackles from a defensive line position, 2 sacks, 3 tackles for loss. I thought he had a heck of a game, but shoot, man, like, who couldn't you pick on that defense who was in that stat box, man? I mean, you got to think about it. Shiloh went crazy. 6 tackles, a fumble recovery touchdown. When you look at Hill Green, 9 tackles and a pick. Like, it was so many options. You got 4 defensive players with multiple sacks, bro. Like, I think Keaton Wade split one. Was it with Arden? How many did Arden have sacks?
I think he had 2. Arden had 2. Yeah. I don't have the stats up right now.
Yeah, I think Arden had 2. Yeah, I think
BJ Green had 2 too.
Yeah, it's like, it ain't. Yeah, it's like the defense that's one of the ones, and they say it's a cop out where they say game ball to the defense, but that's one of the ones where you could truly say game ball to the defense because it was such a united effort by the defense. And special teams, I go with that. Yeah, I like Mata for sure.
Yeah, I do have the stats up now. So Amari had 1.5. Keaton Wade had 1.5. Arden had 2, and BJ Green had 2. Total of 7. What a game! Go ahead, Topher.
Yeah, what a game. Yep.
So following up on that special teams, so Mata started doing kickoffs after the first couple opening kickoffs, given those long returns. So being from the recruiting side, are we trying to recruit our next kickoff specialist? Are we expecting Jace Feely to come back? I'm worried. I watch the special teams game closer probably than anyone else does as a Buffs fan, just because I'm a semi-pro kicker. But watching those kickoffs gets me every single time.
Yeah, first of all, man, kudos to being a semi-pro kicker, man. That's got to be like a very highly skilled thing to do, man. So shout out to you. Secondly, man, you know what? That's something I'm gonna check in on. So next time I come, I'll get your answer. It's usually like, like when the recruiting, like the special teams ain't usually the sexy thing. You know what I mean? So what I'll do is, but just, but one thing about it, we could talk about it, but even playing ball growing up, what they say, special teams are special, bro. Like let Mata would have missed a couple of those kicks and the momentum goes here. So I think it's really important. So what I'll do is I'll check in on the special teams. So I'll make you a deal. Y'all invite me back on and I'll come back with an answer.
Bet.
Sounds like a deal. Yeah.
All right, man. Appreciate y'all, man.
Yeah, absolutely. We really appreciate you coming on, and we'll definitely be in touch. And anything you want to plug really quick on the way out?
Oh man, look, follow me on Twitter and Instagram at DukesDScoop. Check me out on the CU Flex on Well Off Media. This week I got a show with Uncle Neely that we're debuting tomorrow around 6:45 on the Pregame Network, and then check out the Pregame Breakdown on Thursdays on the Pregame Network. Colorado fans, thank you for everything. Folsom Frenzy, my guys, thank you, bro.
Awesome. Hey, thanks for being on.
Thank you so much.
All right, bro. All right.
Cool. Great having him on. Great having that insider knowledge.
Absolutely. And we'll keep recording. We're just going to do the preview real quick for Utah, but we did promise him that we would keep him limited on time and really appreciate him hopping on it and then some really good insight. But looking ahead real quick, we always want to do it and get our numbers out there. Colorado got Utah at home. Utah, frankly, looks terrible, except they might have found something in this new quarterback who made his debut against BYU. For those who didn't watch that game, I'm very sorry. The BYU, the Holy War game was absolutely, it was cinema. It was awesome. And so, we have a decent scouting report going in for Utah, but Utah, per usual, I mean, Buffs fans from a long time know that's a team that plays hard. That is a team that is always going to be tough to beat, but we get them here at Folsom. They're 4-5 coming into the game. Kyle Whittingham, as longtime CU fans know, and most college football fans would know, is one of the best coaches in the game. And they might have found a quarterback that gave them a little bit of a spark there in the last one. But coming into the game, Colorado's a 10-point favorite, over-under set at 48.5. 10-point favorite, it feels like, I'm curious what your guys' thoughts are, but finally feels like Vegas is giving Colorado the respect that we deserve. I think that's probably about right, personally, but, just really quickly, curious what your guys' thoughts are on that.
I'm a little worried. I'm not going to lie. It feels like when things go really right for this program, we usually run into a speed bump or run into a challenge. 10 points feels like a lot against this Utah team that comes in with a lot of momentum. Especially because the strength of that Utah team is
Hold on. A lot of momentum?
Well, listen, they should have won that game. They should have beat BYU. They should have beat BYU. They deserved to win that game. They played better. They had better scheme. They executed better. down the road, BYU just found a way to win, right? And that's the difference between a championship caliber team and a non-championship caliber team. But that new quarterback he's exciting, and he finds his tight ends a lot, and they've utilized their tight ends really, really well. So that's the part of the game that I'm a little bit worried about, because I don't think we've really run into a tight end heavy offense that we've really been tested with, right? We've run into heavy run games, we've run into stud wide receivers, but we haven't really had a stud tight end yet, and I think that's going to be a huge test for this defense. I think Utah probably makes it close. I still like the Buffs to win. I think we win by a touchdown.
Yeah.
Do you like the over or the under, Toph?
I like the under, honestly. I think it's going to be like a 21-14 game.
All right. Okay. I'll agree with your comment about the tight ends. Utah always seems to – I mean, actually, they've had like the same tight end for the last 7 years. I just looked it up. Brant Keithy has been there since 2018. Seriously, this is a sixth.
He's really good.
This is a sixth season playing in that program, but that's over the course of 7 years. I think he redshirted medically last year, so he's just been there. And we've seen Whittingham use Keithy in the Wildcat. We've seen him use him on like weird gadget plays where he like runs sweeps and stuff like that. We even saw that against BYU, right? And there's no doubt that you have to game plan against him. But I'll also say, if I was Utah right now, I would be demoralized. I mean, your AD just got out in front of the media and berated not just the refs, but the conference, implying heavily that they're not happy in the Big 12 anymore. And they've been taking an absolute beating. I mean, their AD just got fined $40,000. Talk about setting a bad tone to your team, who I believe they just fell below 500 for the first time in God knows how long, because that program has been so consistent for so many years. And that was their fifth straight loss, guys. That was their fifth straight loss. They emptied the tank. The Holy War is a big deal. That is bigger than – that's one of the biggest rivalries, period, in the entire sport. And for many, many, many years, Utah always had the we'll say the inside track, the higher ground, so to speak, pretty much as soon as they moved from the Mountain West to the Pac-12 and BYU went independent. They've always felt that they've had this feeling of superiority, which, is interesting because Utah had some very good teams in the 2000s, but BYU they're trying to put them down as their little brother, basically. And then obviously the preseason media polls were all Utah's going to win. I think they picked Utah to win the conference. They had BYU below us. I think they had BYU 13 to 14.
I think we picked Utah to win the conference. I mean, everyone was hot on Utah, right? Not just.
We thought that Cam Rising was going to come back healthy, and even when he came back partially healthy this year, he didn't look the same. We thought that defense was always good, and you know what? The defense has been pretty good this year. And that's to Topher's point. I don't think you're off base. Like, that could definitely be a cause for concern. But man, you want to talk about demoralizing? You're like, your season's falling apart. Your AD's going crazy. Even Whittingham, who's normally very, very calm, got out in front of the media, and I thought he pounded the desk on his way out. Like, they're very, very frustrated. So that could go one of two ways. It could be that they step up and say, we're going to go make a bowl game. We're going to win these last, 3 games. I think that it looks like they play us, they play Iowa State, and then UCF to end the season. So that's a chance. Like, if you win the Colorado game, then you have an opportunity to maybe Iowa State's reeling now. You have a chance to beat UCF. UCF has kind of struggled this year. And you can make a bowl game and salvage what's left of your season. But what I've seen the last few weeks, especially in that Houston game and in the TCU game, even before this one, was a demoralized offense. And bringing in Rose was nice, right? And he definitely brought a different flavor to what they're trying to do. But they got shut out in the second half. They didn't do anything in the second half. And that's why they lost. It wasn't just the refs. There were some questionable calls. But if they had scored 1 point, not that that's possible, right? If they had one scoring play in the second half, then you're not worried about the refs. You're not worried about a holding call. And I would agree. I'm going to take CU here too. I'll take the over on this one though, because I tend to believe that this fan base, not just the fan base, but the team, the program as a whole, seems like they've kind of punted and they're moving on to next season, and they seem as demoralized as I've ever seen Utah.
Yeah. Okay. So I think it's important to include the fact Rose looked great. I was pretty afraid. Like watching that game, I was like, oh my God, like just in time for them to come play us. Utah has found a quarterback finally, but he was only 12 of 21. He threw for 112 yards. He had 2 touchdowns and an interception. He was good. He was fine, right? Like he looked.
He's better than Raiola.
He's.
I'm a stand on business. He's better than Raiola.
but I don't like. I think it's delicious to, after years and years and years, right? Utah was the last game of the season, and there were how many seasons where we were 5 and 6 at the time, and that was the game for the bowl game, and we would go in, and Utah was a ranked team, and they would absolutely pistol whip us, like just kill us, right? And so it's unfortunate that this is not the last game of the season, because all I want is for Utah to be 5 and 6 coming into Boulder and needing the win, and then get to keep them out of the bowl games finally, right? Like to give them a taste of their own medicine. I think we're going to kill them. I think we are going to kill Utah. I think you're right, Sreyas, that the tank is empty, right? I mean, that game was played hard. Those guys hate each other. I mean, the idiot quarterback, Brandon Rose, was doing he was fired up 10 minutes after he scored his touchdown, right? Like he was still talking to the crowd 10 minutes later. And so I think it's going to be really tough after a loss that I agree. I don't know if I agree with you, Topher. I think they're demoralized after that. I think that was a brutal, high octane, you really want to win it loss for this team at home in front of your own fans. And now you have to go to Boulder against the team that I think is just, and this is crazy to say, I love that we get to say it, I think we're more talented than them pretty much everywhere, including on the lines this year. Maybe not on the O-line, but I think we're going to kill them. I think Folsom's going to be rocking. My biggest concern in this game, and maybe these are the words I will eat, my biggest concern is that we will beat them so badly that we aren't prepared for the next opponent the week later when we go out to Kansas City. So I don't know. I like the under. I don't think Utah scores more than 7 points against this Colorado defense. I think we finally start hot, and I think we beat them. I'm going to call it 43-7. So how's that for believing in this team? And I wish Jake was here.
That's over.
and Jake wasn't able to make it tonight, but he did watch the Texas Tech game, and Jake was the first one to be like, "Oh, we've lost, it's over." And I don't, if people saw on our Twitter account, I tweeted, "Everyone relax, it's going to be fine." And I don't know, I just had this moment where I realized, like, every year, like in 2016, right, Colorado looked really good, and there's a lot of things that are very reminiscent of that 2016 team. But the difference for me now is that in 2016, I spent the entire season going, we have gotten away with some, and I think we are good, but we are not as good as our record says. And we found that out definitive. And I don't want to relitigate it. And I know that, injuries happened, so on and so forth. This is the first Colorado team that I remember in my memory as a CU fan, where we are good, and I expect us to be good, and I know we are good, and I know, like we talked about with Dukes, where this team can take a punch in the mouth and they're going to be okay, right? Travis is like, I'm going to lock it. Like Travis is like, I'll just do it myself, right? And he almost did, right? Like, and he will. And Shador, was struggling a little bit at the beginning. And I just think, like, this is a game where we're going to take it out on Utah. And I think we win this one big. I think we easily cover the spread, even though it's 10 points, but probably still the under, because I just don't see Utah scoring 8 points. So that's me as a believer. I don't actually know what the weather looks like. I should probably have taken a look at that before I picked it.
Good. Weather's good.
Weather's good.
But especially after all that snow that Colorado got. So I don't know. Looking forward to this game, and a good opportunity in Folsom. And who knows? Everything is in front of this team, like we talked about, right? Like we have the opportunity to. There's an opportunity that Folsom Field hosts a college football playoff game this year. And after that Nebraska game, I don't think a lot of us would have been able to wrap our minds around this. And so this team has taken some huge strides. Really proud of these kids. Really looking forward to this Utah game. Not able to make it out to Boulder, but just wanted to get on my soapbox a little bit and just say, like, I think we look really good, and we are gelling at the right time. So
talk your talk, Chase.
Yeah,
talk your talk.
Please follow on YouTube. Real close to our goal. A little bit of a shorter episode, and go Buffs.
Go Buffs.
Let's go Buffs.